This is the Real Life Alchemy podcast with your host, Sarah Linhares. Please join me once a week for deep chats and incredible stories about real life alchemy, transformation, creativity, consciousness, and the future. Welcome back, everyone. I just want to start off today's episode by saying thank you so much to all of you, everyone who sent me a personal message about your feelings and your reactions to the last episode, which I spoke about anxiety and my own personal journey with anxiety. And so I just felt really moved and touched to receive so much feedback. So thank you for listening and also sharing your stories with me. A lot of you shared how it resonated with your own personal journeys. And I just feel so grateful to be at a place where I am able to openly and vulnerably and honestly share some deeper life issues that I have truly experienced, because I believe that sharing our stories helps others liberate themselves. When we experience a challenge that we're able to overcome and we share that story with someone that perhaps is going through the very same thing that we once did, it is this incredible support system for our collective evolution. And it's such a honor, and it's with such respect that I share everything that I do, because I truly understand the human condition of suffering. Suffering is something that we all know and have experienced on some level, but I would say some of us suffer more than others, and I think every suffering has a reason. There's a reason for it. Let me tell you, a lot of my life has been suffering, but I would say on an internal level, a lot of mental and emotional suffering within. It has taught me, it has been such a miraculous teacher throughout my life. I used to curse it. I used to fear going deep into suffering. And what I realized is that suffering is not here to make us feel pain. Suffering is a gateway. It's an opportunity, and it's asking us to be aware. When suffering and pain comes into our lives, it is a message. It is showing us something that wants to be acknowledged, seen, and looked at. So throughout my life, suffering has been a big theme, and it's through navigating it and realizing that the point of suffering truly is not to suffer. The point of suffering is to be aware. And when we are aware, beautiful, incredible things can happen. We can evolve and grow and learn and create and express and do everything that we are here to do. This week, I want to introduce another topic which is related to suffering and very timely, because I think there has been a lot of struggle and challenge as of late. Last week I spoke deeply about anxiety, the lessons and how to work with anxiety. And this week, on the continuing running topic of how to thrive in 2023, I would like to introduce another topic of this 2023 journey: deep healing. 2023 is a year of deep healing. We are going to see in our world so many people that are ready to go deep into a healing process. So let's break down what that means. deep healing is a serious commitment to your healing journey. And what do I mean by healing? Healing is derived from health. I spoke about radical health last week, and radical health is still very present in this topic of deep healing. Healing is related to coming back into union. Healing is when you accept and find the balance in all that is. Healing is falling together, allowing yourself to be all that you are with acceptance and love without trying to avoid, deny, repress, hide, and run away. Healing is a process that as humans we're very familiar with. We all know what it's like to get a cold. We all know what it's like to heal from that. Most of us have experience with some kind of a physical wound, whether it's a cut, a bruise, a broken bone. We all understand the process of healing, the fact that our bodies are these incredible machines that can heal themselves. So healing is that process of gentle, loving care where we allow our system, our body, our health to come back into alignment, into center. And I believe true healing happens on all levels of being. True healing is not simply physical level. I truly believe health is a matter of all three levels. It is body, mind, spirit, and I would add a fourth, heart, love. So that is a union. Healing is bringing all of those aspects of being into equilibrium, finding that space where all are able to thrive. I believe this year we will see many more people awakening in their spirituality and their consciousness journey and their awareness. What is consciousness? It is awareness. So many of us, many people, more than ever, are really on that path of consciousness. And when we step on that path of consciousness, one of the first things we realize is we have been living with a bunch of coping mechanisms. And coping mechanisms lead to out of balance system in all levels of being, or could be in all levels of being. So when we begin to become conscious of ourselves on a deeper level, we begin to understand that there are patterns, cycles, behaviors that we do, and sometimes they're subconscious. They're so ingrained in our system that we're just running a program. We're not even conscious of how angry we are or how sad we are or how much grief we're holding until something happens. So our bodies going out of balance into ill health or disease or some kind of a chronic condition. For example, let's say eczema or candida, just a simple ailment, notes a greater imbalance is taking place in our system. One way that I can really express how my view on healing was developed, we need to go back to when I was 17 years old and I began my spiritual awakening. And I began reading spiritual books that woke me up to concepts that I had never heard before, that radically shifted my awareness and my perception of how the universe worked. And one of the most life-changing books on my journey was Anatomy of the Spirit, The 7 Stages of Power and Healing by Carolyn Myss. That's Myss, PhD. Carolyn is a medical intuitive, meaning she developed her abilities to intuit and feel into which diseases people had. So she would meet people and she could feel in their system where they were sick. And she began writing her experiences and how every part of the body was related to specific aspects of emotions. And she realized that all of these parts of the body were linked to the chakra systems. We have 7 primary chakras, which is literally a wheel of energy in the center of our spine. Each chakra relates to a certain position or part of the body, and also it is linked with a mental and emotional issue and a physical dysfunction. And I really encourage you to go out and find her book, Anatomy of the Spirit. If you're at all interested in healing, if you are a healer, or if you work with psychological issues or physical issues, or if you're even just curious about your own healing journey, it is such a manual to learn from. And her view shaped my new understanding of health and healing, and how every part of the body was linked to an emotion. Every part of the body could be linked to a dysfunction if that part of the body or that energetic wheel was out of balance. So I began studying that at an early age. Blew my mind. So from a very early age, I had quite a radical view of health, because I believed that the issue was not merely physical, it was also emotional and spiritual. Healing and health has been a fascination and a deep interest of mine for a very long time. What is a healer? We hear this term used a lot, and I think there's a lot of misunderstanding or misconception around this term healer. I believe that each one of us is our own healer, meaning we have the power within us to heal ourselves on all levels of being. I think we are out of touch with that knowledge and that practice. And if we spend time learning, training, studying in any healing modality, we quickly learn that each person is truly partly responsible or completely responsible for their own healing journey. So when we speak of healers, I believe healers are people that help you realize your own healing potential within. I believe healers allow you to heal yourself through their guidance. I am a healer. I work with energy, I work with Reiki, and I work with a bunch of other tools that work with bringing the physical, mental, emotional, spiritual body into balance. In the past, I didn't want to admit that that's part of what I did. But with time, I accept that that is part of my role. It is assisting, supporting other people to realize that they are their own healer. I believe that any healer that's going to bring you any kind of modality can assist you relieving your immediate pain, angst, emotional struggles. They can help you, but ultimately, the deep healing work has to be done with yourself. It's truly an all-immersive process, and the deeper you go into it and commit to it is the deeper your healing. I believe deep healing is a major theme in 2023, and there is actually several pretty big astrological events that indicate that there will be an increase of collective healing work. So when I speak of collective healing work, I mean there will be an increase in people seeking out healing modalities. So what does that mean? I believe there will be an increase in plant medicine. There will be an increase in psychedelic assisted therapy. There will be an increase in Reiki. There will be an increase in breath work. There will be an increase in any type of healing modality, anything that can help your system come back into balance. It will be happening on a massive scale. More than ever, people are really interested in getting to know themselves. Self-development, self-knowledge is really one of the pillars of health, because you need to know where you are at, what is happening, self-knowledge and self-awareness, to know what is out of system, what is out of balance. So when people begin to develop a deeper understanding of themselves, real healing can take place. So I would encourage anyone who is ready to step into being a healer. Remember, a healer is possible within each of us. Remember that you are your healer. However, you may need to learn a healing modality. You may need to go to a healer with experience to show you what is possible for you. But ultimately, each one of us can heal themselves. I truly believe that, if the desire is there and if the commitment is there. And healing, especially if you are very sick, and I'm talking disease like cancer. Cancer is one of those very profound illnesses that really stop us in our tracks and force us to radically put ourselves first. I have a very good friend of mine who has recently healed from cancer. Very young, beautiful, incredible woman. At the beginning of her journey, I remember when I found out, it was a shock because she was this incredible person, so young, so full of life, and so beautiful, so inspiring. And how could she have this illness so young? There is always a reason. And what she realized on her journey, and I feel really grateful because I was able to support and assist her on her journey. This cancer for her was a wake-up call. Are you ready to really live? I think often disease, illness is really a wake-up call. Are you here? Do you want to be here? And are you going to take your health and yourself seriously? Are you going to take your needs and place them first? Because ultimately, if we are sacrificing ourselves, we cannot help anyone else. People who work with others, people who love to help and who work in healing modalities like nurses and yoga practitioners and masseuses and Reiki and all of us that do healing modalities have this deep desire to help. And sometimes this deep desire to help others the line can get really blurry because we can over give. We can over support another when we do not have the energy ourselves. And I would even say that we can get distracted by another's pain and suffering. When we focus on helping another, we don't have to look at ourselves. And sometimes we can get caught in this loop of looking always outside of ourselves to help the other. I feel so grateful for have finally come to this place where I understand that I do have a deep love for humanity. I deeply feel another's pain. And I mean, I can physically feel someone's pain in my body, okay? This is one of my superpowers and also one of my curses. But when I feel someone's suffering, the instinct within me is to assist them, is to help them. But when we attempt to help another who doesn't want to be helped, who isn't ready to go there, all we are doing is wasting our precious energy. One of the most difficult lessons on my journey as a healer and a helper was realizing you cannot save the people you love. You need to let them do their journey, and if they want your help, they will ask you. That was such a difficult, challenging lesson for me because my deepest desire was for people to feel good and to not feel pain. But in retrospect, part of this anxiety that I felt when I felt another suffering was the fact that I wanted to feel better around them because I could feel their suffering and it was painful. Luckily, with time, space, and practice and experience, I have learned it's okay. Suffering can be a very important teacher. Pain is important. It is a signal telling us essential information. It is giving us the message, something is happening. I need you to see this. When we ignore these messages, we keep getting signals, messages, but the intensity usually increases. And often what we do in society is we completely ignore what our body, our intuition, our anxiety, our fears are telling us. We ignore the physical cues, we ignore the mental cues, we ignore the science, we ignore the anxiety. We are terrified of looking at difficult subjects. Our bodies tell us things for a reason. And when we don't listen, dramatic things happen. Because usually, in my experience, you feel something. You feel, oh, I'm feeling tired. Maybe I shouldn't go out. But no, you want to enjoy your life, so you go out. And you overextend your energy, you overdo certain things, and then you get an exhaustion. You take half a day out, and you're back at it. And when this happens over years, we can develop chronic conditions and disease and illness simply because we didn't want to listen to our bodies. I think what is so important for us in 2023 is to start developing a deeper relationship with ourselves and our bodies and our spirits. That's what I mean by deep healing. Getting in touch with where we are at right now. Something that has come up this week that was this beautiful reminder was when we have massive change in our life, we are always faced with this moment of ending before the new beginning. And when we are experiencing a change, often we become face to face with a deep sadness. As humans, we really are in a process of mourning old ways of being. Every time you need to change something in your life, you could be experiencing grief. But we don't allow ourselves to experience grief, to really go into grief sometimes. And so we keep it repressed, we keep it in our body, and then later on, we're surprised when we have this total breakdown out of nowhere. I am suggesting that this be the year when you begin to allow yourself to feel what is actually going on in your body, mind, and spirit. Today, I want to share one of my stories about my own very intimate, deep healing journey. I've had many, many moments of deep healing in my life, but I want to share one particular story with you today because I think it's quite important, because it also leads you to the story of how I began working with Reiki energy. In 2017, I ended up leaving an intimate relationship that had become toxic and violent and emotionally abusive. How did I get involved in this relationship? Well, just like any other beautifully dramatic, exciting relationship, I fell madly in love with someone and was drawn to this person that had the same wounds as myself. But little did I know that we would be reenacting old trauma dynamics in our intimate relationship. I ended up, for whatever reason, getting really stuck in this relationship where I began to spiral into a very, very dark mental place, to the point where I really shut myself off from the world. I isolated myself, and I was struggling with very strong self-loathing, self-hatred, and depression, anxiety, to the point where I was so ashamed of how I had allowed myself to get to this point. And at the time, I didn't know how to share this with anyone, so I tried to hide it. I hid it, and I tried to cope. And at the time, I was coping by drinking a lot of alcohol and just generally mistreating myself. Near the end of this relationship, I knew I was completely lost. I had completely lost touch with my essence, my confidence, and I was filled with rage. But most of all, I was completely depleted, exhausted, and I felt terrible. And without even knowing it, underlying in my subconscious, I didn't want to be here on this earth. I was sabotaging my life in every way possible. And the only healing or the only therapy I really had at that time was writing poetry and writing music. So that's what I did to not completely lose my mind. So it got to the point where I knew I had to do something, and I knew I had to leave. But it's this strange thing, codependency and toxic relationships. It's this very strange, entangled, sticky mess where you feel like you're in it, like you feel like it's part of your identity. And something about this environment was very familiar to me, meaning I had also experienced some level of psychological abuse in the past and some pretty severe bullying. So in some way, in my nervous system, when I was young, I learned that this was kind of part of intimate relationships, being smashed emotionally and mentally and intellectually and on all levels, negating my brilliance was normal. So to me, I guess there was something familiar about this environment. I knew I had to leave him, and I was afraid. I didn't know how I was going to do it. An opportunity came up to move in with these two girls, and I knew I had to take it. When I left him and I moved in with those two girls, I was destroyed. I was empty. I was exhausted. I was a shell of a woman. My identity, my essence, my self-worth, my confidence was literally at zero. So I hid away from the world and ate potato chips and drank wine because I was so angry with myself for having allowed myself to stay for so long. But there's always a silver lining, and what ended up happening is I ended up going for a Reiki healing session. It was so beautiful. It stirred within me something, a desire to learn Reiki. It moved me. I made the decision then I wanted to study Reiki. I didn't even really know what it was, but I decided there's something in this for me. This is healing. I need it. I went to study Reiki level 1, and it was so profoundly life-affirming, so profoundly powerful that it gave me hope. Hope that I could change my life. Hope that I could become my own healer again, that I could remember who I was, because I had truly forgotten. And what began was a very deep healing journey, which took me 4 years. For 4 years, I dedicated my life to studying Reiki and practicing meditation and healing myself. I did all the levels of Reiki, and I spent all my money on retreats, meditation and Reiki retreats, and all of my free time was spent meditating and giving myself Reiki and just falling back in love with life. 4 years later, I completed my Reiki Masters, meaning that I was initiated to become a teacher, to share the Reiki knowledge. What is Reiki? Reiki is an ancient Japanese method of harmonizing and healing by channeling the universal life flow energy by the touch of the hands. It is able to provoke changes and touch all levels of your being, physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual. Reiki is a powerful self-development and healing tool. Learning Reiki allows you to develop an intimate relationship with yourself, and it deeply supports your personal transformation, healing, and self-love journey. I believe it teaches lifelong skills and practices that harmonize and heal whatever is out of balance in your life. I want to read you something I wrote about Reiki. Reiki changed my life. It brought me deep into the cavern I feared to explore, where I found the treasure I had always been seeking, myself. It cleansed my wounds and helped me to heal them. It guided me from suffering into acceptance, liberation, and joy. It taught me that I have always been enough and I always will be enough. It showed me that I am the savior I have always been seeking. It allowed me to feel safe enough to fully open my heart. And it gifted me with a powerful set of supportive tools, skills, and practices that I can use whenever I need. Reiki is an ancient Japanese method of harmonizing and healing by channeling the universal life force energy. But it is also much more. In 2017, I was completely lost in depression, post-traumatic stress, after leaving a toxic relationship. I could barely keep my head above water. I was full of shame, of rage, of despair, of grief and guilt. My mind tormented me day and night. I had given up on life and on myself. I knew I needed help, and I was desperate for a sign. And so, as if by magic, Reiki appeared in the perfect moment. From my first contact with this ancient Japanese method of harmonizing the universal cosmic energy, I began a profound personal healing journey. I was initiated with level 1 and began practicing on myself. That's when I truly began to find my feet again. I dedicated an hour each day to just being with myself. Through those initial 21 days of self-practice, I began to feel compassion, gentleness, kindness, and love. It brought me home to myself. It was the catalyst that pushed me to go deep within. I can assure you that it was not always a pretty journey. It was dark, lonely, and hard. I came face to face with demons, hidden traumas, and deep pain. But as I worked through my shadows, I began to develop strength, fortitude, soul esteem, and a desire to be free from suffering, to go beyond my limitations, and to find happiness again. Pain is the price we must pay to be free. If we can overcome our fear of the pain, we can heal. We can come back into wholeness. If we can go into the pain, it provides us with awareness. And with awareness, we are able to transmute and transcend it into acceptance. As we relax and let go of disturbances, we can find peace. I dedicated 4 years of my life to learning to accept myself, to embrace life, love, and freedom. I learned to love myself in ways that I never even knew were possible. I learned I am enough. I always have been enough, and I always will be enough, no matter what outside circumstances dictate. It has been a very wild, challenging, and beautiful journey to become the conscious being that I am now. As I studied and practiced Reiki nearly every day, I have transformed like a glorious phoenix. Today, it is with great gratitude that I humbly say I am a Reiki master, which means I may now teach this incredible tool, blessing, and method. It is a passion of mine to support others as they find their wings and transform into that limitless being that I know you are meant to be. A major part of my deep healing journey was with the methodology, the modality of Reiki healing. But you can choose any modality that suits you, and every single method, every single option has value. And I think it's important to really seek out or experiment with what you feel called to. Not everyone is going to study Reiki. Not everyone is going to do breath work. Not everyone is going to go see a psychologist. Yet, we can try all of these modalities to find what really resonates deeply in our soul. Those 4 years of deep healing for me were transformational, transcendental, and really expanded my energetic capacity. And I wouldn't trade them for anything, even though it was very hard. I use Reiki in my life to this day, almost every single day, in some form. This year, what I wish for us all is to find the practices that support us being in balance. Deep healing is a commitment to a way of life, and a way of life finding balance every day is commitment, is a dedication, a devotional practice. And I really, truly believe every single day I need to practice something that keeps me grounded, peaceful, calm, connected to this infinite universe, this quantum field of possibility. So every single day I dedicate time to my practice, which is breath work, yoga, meditation, Reiki, shaking, dancing, whatever I do. I change it up regularly, but my focus and my dedication is there. And when I am not practicing every day, I feel it. I feel more unstable, and I can get swept up in a wave. So may this be the year that you commit to finding balance in your life. If you know there's something deep that you want to work with, it's time. It's time. This is a massive up-leveling. We are being called to step into our power. And to be powerful is to be whole, to be healed, to be holy. So I wish for you that you find your way. A tiny side note on deep healing, I want to mention shame. Shame is a very powerful emotion, and shame is a paralyzing emotion. It leaves us breathless. It leaves us stuck. It leaves us disconnected from our power because we want to not exist. We want to hide. We want to run. We want to negate. We want to divorce ourselves from that aspect of ourselves that we feel shame about. I think that was one emotion that I really struggled with when I was healing, because I was so ashamed that I had let that situation occur, that I had allowed myself to behave in certain ways and also to allow myself to be treated like that. So I really struggled deeply with shame for a big part of that journey. But I no longer feel shame. So I want to say, if shame is in your reality right now, just know that there's a process to relieve yourself, to release it from your life. And on that topic of shame, I want to play for you a song I wrote about shame called Blush. And it really speaks to that dark place where I wanted to hide away and totally sabotage my own success and abundance. And I didn't want to exist. And I just want you to know that it is possible to feel deep shame and to let it go and to thrive afterwards. It's a story we're telling ourselves, and it does not need to be true anymore. Every single day we have a choice. We can choose to release and let go our traumas, our pains. We can choose to observe our thoughts. We can choose to take ownership and responsibility for our thoughts, our behavior, and our emotional well-being. If we were not taught how to deal with emotions, it can feel overwhelming. But you can learn to understand yourself, to know yourself, and to love and accept, deeper than love, I would say, accept those parts of yourself that you think are less desirable. I will leave you now with so much love for the human condition, for so much love for all of us. And I want to share a deep, heartfelt message for humanity. The pain is part of the process. The pain is not to make you suffer. The pain is to make you aware. And when we are aware, we can grow, we can express, we can create. Let us use these deep emotions in creative ways. Let us create art as healing, as therapy. Let us express ourselves through our body, through dance and yoga and movement. Let us paint, let us draw, let us run, let us jump. Let us liberate ourselves from our self-imposed prisons. I wish you deep love. Take good care. So gentleness. I guess nobody showed you how to behave. I step into the ring again, even though my intentions were pure. I do not have words to say. Can't you leave me away? I can't explain why I act this way. You don't know how this goes. You don't know how far I go. Why don't you just let me have a way? And so